Hello, hooray. Welcome to the Ethical Hacker course. So this is the Cisco cybersecurity course that attempts to do what CompTIA calls Security Plus, that also attempts to do what ISACA for a very entry-level cybersecurity course, what they call CISA, Cybersecurity Information Security Auditor or Systems Auditor, and also what Cisco also calls cyber ops, that is cybersecurity operations associates. And also what was the name again? These guys, EC Council, what they call CEH, Certified Ethical Hacker. So this is all Cisco attempt to try to provide a very, very robust ethical hacker course that can get you into an intermediate level cybersecurity analyst. So I'm going to go through this series in 10 series. They're also going to have the lab sessions. So in this very first series, I'm going to look at an overview of all the things we're going to learn. So we have quite a lot of scope and sequence we're going to look through. They also have some labs that we're going to, they're about 20 thereabout labs. So the lab covers how to install virtual machine, how to investigate your Kali Linux box. What do you have in the box? Most enthusiasts, we hear things like Kali Linux. So what is Kali Linux? What is inside the box? What is it meant for? Then, of course, you also have how do you look at an exploit code? How do you analyze it? Because some of the things the security analyst is going to be doing is things like forensics, is things like malware analysis and all of that. So we're going to see that in the 10th module. Then compliance, regulation, what's pen testing, look at personal code of conduct, those things that should actually tell how you should carry on in terms of your work as a security analyst. So these are some of the labs we're going to be looking at. So you could pause and scan through it just for want of time. Then we're going to look at an overview of all of the things we're going to be looking at. Then, of course, we have some slides. So we're going to be doing some slides and, of course, the hands-on, or we're going to be done with the hands-on. I'm going to take on the labs. Okay, so my name is Victor, and I'm going to be your anchor for this series. So if you're new to the channel, you can you could subscribe. Also, you can check the channel for an introductory 5-6 module cybersecurity training. It's on the channel. I'm going to drop a link also in the description. Now, there's some softwares we're going to be looking at. We're going to be using this training. It's going to be the Oracle VirtualBox, and we're going to be having an OVA machine, an Oracle VirtualBox machine that we're going to be using throughout the training. Understand that it contains roughly around 20-something to 30 labs. Then you have quite a lot of practices. Then it covers 10 modules. I'm going to mention the 10 modules also. Then out of the day, you can do a simple final exam. I'm also going to drop the link where you could go run through this course. Okay, so let's look at the modules. So there are 10 modules. The very first module is us trying to understand what ethical hacking is, what penetration testing is. So this course attempts to try to make you an intermediate security analyst. And what an intermediate security analyst is going to do things like penetration testing. Now, if you want to start a career in cybersecurity, so what should be your approach? Your approach should be something like, okay, I have some tech skills. So your tech skills can be around, let's say, basic web scripting, basics of networking. So these two skills are very, very handy, right? Except you want to do something like GRC, you want to do things like compliance, you want to do things like cybersecurity project management, or you want to be a writer, or you want to do sales, you want to do marketing. That's to say, you want to market cybersecurity products, cybersecurity services, and all of that. On the channel too, I have a playlist or have a video that talks about the non-technical cybersecurity skills. So you can look at that also. That look at all of those non-technical cybersecurity areas that you can go into if you don't want to do anything core cybersecurity. So some tech skills are web scripting, networking. So if you have this skill set, it then means you could go into core technical cybersecurity. Now, of course, somebody will have to first do a security audit, right? Then you do a vulnerability assessment. Once you're done with this, then you can do a pen test. So normally a security audit will check if the organization is following standards, if they're following guidelines, if they're following principles, right? Are they following all of these principles? Are they following all of these guidelines and the rest? So that's what you do in the security audit. Then for a vulnerability assessment, you want to look at flaws, right? Are there loopholes? Are there things you found out in this stuff that are not how they're supposed to be? So you can be doing a manual vulnerability assessment, trying to look if it's web, trying to look between the codes, if it's the network, trying to check if you have passwords, if you have some vulnerabilities, look at how things are configured, things, how access control is being done, all of that. That's what you do in vulnerability assessment. Then if you're going to do an automated vulnerability assessment, that means you're going to be running some tools, run some applications. If it's for web, you can use the OAPS. That is the Open Web Application Security Project. You can use that guideline if it's for network, if it's for mobile app. You can use any of the framework to try to do a vulnerability assessment. Now, somehow, this course starts with pen testing, right? So you might be surprised. This is module 1. We're just trying to understand what is ethical hacking and what is pen testing. So we're going to go into that and see what's ethical hacking and what's pen testing and what are different kind of methodologies. So how do we do that? What are these kind of frameworks we can use to try to do penetration testing? And what are the methodologies? What are the frameworks? What are the guidelines? Why is pen testing very important? And how do we differentiate ethical hacking and pen testing? And how is one a subset of the other? So those are the kind of things we are going to look at in module 1. So, of course, at the end of the module 1, we're going to be looking at building your own lab. How do you build your own lab? Of course, you want to use things like Oracle VirtualBox or VMware, any of those tools. You want to use any of those tools to like set up your own lab so that you can start doing all of those tasks. And in module 2, we're going to look at planning. So I normally say pen testing is a type of project for project managers, experienced project managers, or even starters. You understand that if you want to do a pen test is going to be a project. And what's a project? So a project, of course, a tech project for emphasis. So a tech project is meant to be an endeavor that's going to have a start time and end time, right? Let's say day 1 and day 5. And the goal is that we want to deliver a result, a service, or a product. That's what a project is. Of course, you have different project management frameworks. A pen test is also a project. And in project management, we always say if you want to do a project, you initiate, you plan, you execute, you monitor and control, then you end or you close. So once you initiated that you want to run a pen test project, it can be for a small company, for a large scale company, for a government enterprise, you have to plan. So planning is so crucial, and that's module 2. How do we plan? And there's what we call scope creep. Scope creep. Scope creep in project management and in pen testing is where, that's why just being in a group a few days ago, I think that was yesterday, somebody said, okay, I need a pen tester. So the question I asked was web, network, mobile, or cloud? That was a simple question I asked. What did I want to do? I want to define the scope of the pen test. Because if you're going to be pen testing, or you're going to try to see if there are vulnerabilities that can be attacked on the website, and you attempt to attack them, that's completely different from if you're going to be checking for that on the network. Going to be completely different in your scope if you're going to be trying to do that in a mobile app, or if the mobile app, imagine the company have like 5 mobile apps, and they have, let's say, 3 websites, and they have their network in 3 locations, right? And they have a server room. They have 50 endpoint devices. That's like printers, tablets, laptops, mobile phones, and the rest. That's what you call end devices. So if you are new to networking, you can check the channel also. I have a comprehensive series on networking. That's the CCNA one. If you also want to take a certification, you could inbox, you can speak to us at the academy. You could run through that program so that it also helps you prepare your career in cybersecurity. Same thing if it's cloud. Is it on AWS? Is it on Azure? Is it on GCP? Is it on IBM? Is it on Alibaba? What kind of cloud infrastructure do you have? Because if you're going to be doing on, let's say, if the company is using multi-cloud, right? They have all of their digital assets in several places. It's a different ball game together when you're just trying to do a pen test on just one website. This is going to be far cheaper, far affordable compared to if they have quite a lot of things scattered abroad. So that's why if you're doing a pen testing, you have to define your scope. Then you want to look at governance, risks, compliance. So this is what we call GRC. Then we want to look at scoping, understanding scope, understanding the requirements of the company and all of that. So those are the kind of things we want to learn in module 2. In module 3, we want to look at vulnerability assessment and pen testing. So at this point, we're not trying to, in module 1, we're not actually trying to pen test. We just want to understand the fundamentals. Then in module 3, now we're going to be looking at what's vulnerability assessment, what's information gathering, how do I try to get some kind of basic, like I said, you do an audit, you do a vulnerability assessment before you do a penetration testing. So at the very first instance, you want to be doing things like reconnaissance, footprinting, what's active reconnaissance, what is passive reconnaissance. So those are the kind of things you want to learn in module 3. In module 4, we also want to understand social engineering. So social engineering is a way to do reconnaissance and footprinting. So you understand all the physical ways to do social engineering and why is it the weakest link when it comes to humans. In social engineering, we're trying to say the humans there are trying to lead out information that they're not supposed to lead out. So it can come from different attack surfaces. And attack surfaces, we mean different ways or all the places where the company have their digital asset. Is it on their network? Is it on their cloud? Is it on their website? Is it at their entrance even? Do they have physical security? So that's why we talk about physical security. What are different types of social engineering tools? And what are different ways that influence can also facilitate social engineering? In module 5, we're going to look at exploiting wired and wireless networks. So this is where we learn about the different types of pen testing that can also be done on wired and wired networks. Then, of course, very, very awesome module in module 6, we're going to be looking at OWASP. So OWASP is Open Web Application Security Project. So if you're doing pen testing or if you want to major in web pen testing, that is OWASP. So OWASP is Open Web Application Security Project. So we're going to look at that in module 6. So we're going to look at the framework, we're going to look at the guidelines, we're going to look at the sheets, we're going to do some, if you have a project, if you have a web application, either hosted or not hosted, completed in the process, at the start, at MVP stage, whatever stage the project is at, if you want to do penetration testing, what should you be looking at as your guide in order to run that penetration testing? So that's what OWASP is going to help us. And there are about 10 of them. They've been quite for some years. Up till the very current version. So you see some of them are very, very awesome, very, very important. Some of them are even low-hanging fruits. So we're going to look at business logic flaws. So programming skills comes in when you try to look at some of these flaws. Yes, you're able to do some of this pen testing or look at some of these attacks, even if you do an automated test. If you use something like Nezor, something like WhatsApp, if you use something like so many of those tools, you can run them and they can tell you, okay, I have a vulnerability here, I have a vulnerability here. If the scope of the project you have with your clients involve you not just identifying the vulnerabilities, but also fixing it, or you advising the internal team, it then means that you need to be able to understand whatever you're saying that the tool is actually telling you. Okay, in module 7, we will continue from where we stopped in the OWASP stock term. So this is just a continuation of module 6. It's not necessarily a new chapter. Same thing with, okay, module 5 and module 6 all talks about some of the core aspects of OWASP. Then in module 7, we're going to look at cloud mobile IoT security. Just a little advice, if you're starting out in cybersecurity, you want to have some form of focus. So this is just like an advice. So you have IoT, you have web, you have security, you have cloud, you have network, you have mobile app, you have data, you have endpoint. So these are different areas in security. So it's always good that you have a core competence, right? You build competence in at least 1 or 2 areas, so that if you take a certification like the Cyber Ops, like the Cisco Ethical Hacker, like the EC Council CEH, or the CISA, or the any of these entry-level cybersecurity or the CompTIA Security Plus, once you're done with them, you can now start majoring in 1 or 2 core areas so that you can start providing freelance service, you can seek employment, you can seek internship in any of these core areas, because you don't want to be a jack of all trades. You don't want to be every day and there. If they give you a site that has been hacked, can you fix, can you rescue, can you tell what was wrong? Can you look at a cloud application deployed on any of the cloud service provider and say, okay, this is the vulnerabilities I have here, this is what should be done? Because for you to do that competently, you need to have competence in that particular area, because you're going to be advising, you're going to be giving advisory to engineers in any of these areas. So this is just an advice. Don't get into security without having to deal with your foundational area. So if you're a mobile app developer or a mobile app engineer, and you want to go into security, awesome. So you could easily provide service in mobile, cloud, and web. Because of course, these guys are just programming languages. You're trying to use any of the programming languages, like a front-end engineer, a back-end engineer, and you want to provide security for those digital assets you have in any of those platforms, either on regular web hosting applications, on the cloud, or mobile apps. No matter how they are built, you are better positioned to offer pen testing service in those areas. Okay, let's try it on. So now, you see, for this particular module, you see, we are combining cloud, mobile, IoT security. So you have 3 areas all clumped up together. So it might look clumsy, but it's an introductory. That's why you shouldn't have a CH or have an S plus or have the CISA or whatever, and you think you've arrived. No, you just started your journey. So you need to go in depth and be able to understand these platforms so that you can provide better security for any of these platforms. So you have cloud, mobile, IoT security all lumped up for module 8. So we want to look at what are different kind of attacks you have there, what are the kind of vulnerabilities. And of course, for module 8, we want to look at post-exploitation techniques. So once something have happened, so this is where you're trying to do an attack for something that already happened, or after your pen testing, what are the kind of techniques you can have there? So you have lateral movement, detection avoidance, you don't want to be detected, enumeration to list out all of the things that you've done, or list out things like printers, username, applications you have on the server, all of those kind of things. So those are the kind of things we're going to look at in module 8. In module 9, reporting. So because I said that pen testing is a project, you can't do a project, you can't carry out a project without saying, it's just like saying, a client says, okay, can you build a 3-bedroom flat for me, or build a duplex for me, or a bungalow, or build a little mansion for me? So you can't finish that without presenting a report and say, okay, this is what I have done. Or say, this building have an issue, I want you to check, do some kind of test for me to see, okay, where are the vulnerable areas and where can we mitigate this building from collapsing? you can't return and after doing your job without telling the client, okay, this is what is vulnerable, this is what we need to fix, this is what we need to do. It's mandatory, it's industry standard, it's best practices. So it's a best practice for you to do what? To write a report, recommend appropriate remediation. And of course, in project management, we say communication. Communication is so key. Either it's going to be informal, it's going to be formal. What's the frequency of communication? Is it bi-weekly? Is it annually? Is it monthly? How is all of that going to be done? So that needs to be sorted out. And of course, in module 10, we're going to look at tools and code analysis. I think this is a model in computer pen test. So some codes, some manual analysis, some codes that we have, how do we check if there's a vulnerability in it, and all of that. So I think that's a rough intro of the Cisco Ethical Hacker course. Then just an overview of some of the labs. Some selected labs here, you have personal code of conduct, you have OSINT, you have searches, you have Wireshark, you have Scape, you have Nmap, you have Bev, you have for Linux, you have OWASP, you have scripting, you have password tools, you have quite a lot of them. So we're going to use two approaches. We're going to run some theory, some labs, or we're going to be done with the theory, then we kickstart the labs, or we're going to do the labs in any of the Zoom sections, training sections we have either this week or next week. So thank you very much and see you when we commence Module 1.